Hello and welcome to The Night Feed. I'm your host, Charlotte, here to bring you some company during, let's face it, one of the toughest parts of being a new parent, The Night Feed. Tonight's unpaid sponsor is the crawling stage. Guys, I'm well and truly in the crawling stage with my little boy, which I love. It is wonderful seeing them progress and move around and pull themselves up on furniture. But wow, it has hit me quick. I think when you've got other children, you forget how quickly these stages come around. And one minute he is sat there, this was a couple of weeks ago, he would just sit for a good 5 or 10 minutes with the toys in his vicinity while I put my makeup on, obviously watching him, but he would sit still. And you forget how different it is when they're stationary to when they're moving and literally into everything. And boys are quicker than girls. I'm claiming this. I don't know if I'm right, but from my experience, my girls were a bit more chill, calm. They'd maybe play with toys for a bit longer. A baby boy, he is in exploration mode. I went out in the garden today. I put this blanket out. I thought, well, put all the toys on there for him and he'll have a nice little play on the grass. And, it was El Scorchio here today, 20 degrees in the UK. It was wonderful, beautiful day. Kids are off school. So we're in the garden, put the blanket down for the baby, and no, he was anywhere but that blanket. He was going to the decking, he was going to the fence, he was playing in the kitchen sink that's not been cleaned out since last October. You're like, whoa. So needless to say, my back's in a bad way today because I've literally just been picking him up, putting him back to where he can be. Then later on in the afternoon, we were in the living room and I thought there was a knock at the door. So I'm like, right, okay, I'll put you there for like 3 seconds while I run to the door. Went through the hallway. Now, if that was my girls, they'd still be probably sat in a similar position at that age, just pottering. No, the baby was right behind me in the hallway within 3 seconds, about to lick a shoe. Like, okay, this is different. But yeah, it's great to see. It just sneaks upon you, the crawling stage. You forget how the stillness of a newborn and the tranquility of giving them a feed, letting them sleep. And then when they wake, they just lie on their back and play on their mat. It can be backbreaking at this stage because you're just constantly lifting them and stopping them from falling and stopping them from putting every little thing in their mouth. So yeah, it's busy at the moment. I hope you all had a great Easter if you celebrate. We went to my parents' caravan in North Wales, and wow, did Storm David nearly sweep us off our feet. I mean, I have never experienced wind like that. I know I can be dramatic. I know I can exaggerate. I thought we were going off to Oz at one point. I thought we were going to be swept up like Dorothy off into a tornado. The caravan was literally rocking. I was questioning whether windows were going to come in at one point, but we got through it. We made it through the storm. And as we were going to bed in said storm, I turned to Jason and I remembered it's Easter in the morning, Easter Sunday. I was like, oh, do us a favour and put the Easter eggs out for the girls because, Easter Bunny come. If you're listening with kids, I'm going to talk about the Easter Bunny now. So just a heads up. Obviously, Easter Bunny comes in the evening and we don't go overboard for Easter. We get them like a big egg each and then a few little eggs. It's not like a big whole, we get presents and all kinds, but I just wanted him to put the eggs on the table and we do the Easter egg hunt in the morning. So Jason goes off to get the eggs and he's like, I can't see them. I don't know where they are. I'm like, they're in the wardrobe. They're definitely in a bag. And I'm sat there with the baby in my arms because, as you know, baby goes to sleep in my arms and I carry him to the bed with me and you know how it is. So I'm kind of like, you can't just go and look, when you try to keep the baby asleep. So I'm like, just look a bit harder. It's definitely in there. There's a black bag with the eggs in. I know it. I put it in the car. I'm sure I did. So he's looking again. He's like, babe, I really can't see it. I definitely can't see it. And it dawned on me. I didn't put them in the car. I didn't put the Easter eggs in the car. Oh my God, the meltdown I had. And I realise now why the meltdown was so bad, because I've come on this week. I was like, oh God, I forgot the eggs. I forgot the eggs. I forgot the eggs for Easter. They're going to think they've been naughty because, that's been the week's threat leading up to Easter, is that the Easter bunny will bring the Smarties eggs if you're good. Oh, I felt terrible. Jason's so good in situations like this. He's like, babe, they're 5 and 3. It's okay. We can talk them round. We'll make something up. It's okay. Anyway, I had a bag of like Easter egg hunt eggs that I'd put in a separate bag, the little ones. So we made a little trail. We put them on the table. And I wrote a little note from the Easter Bunny saying that because Storm David was so bad, he could only manage the small eggs. And I think we got there. It's all good. It's all good. And it led me on actually quite nicely to talking about parenting advice and, bringing the magic into childhood. And I was actually emailing one of you lovely listeners that evening when that happened, Elle from up in Scotland, who I actually mentioned in the podcast last week. She was saying how she'd listened to an older episode where I was talking about parenting tips for older children. And she said, something I have tucked up in my sleeve for my son, which my parents did with me, was the sweet dream ticket. And she said, when I was 4 or 5, I had a lot of nightmares and would go into my parents' room. It was disturbing their sleep, so they came up with the idea of putting an old train ticket under my pillow so I could only have good dreams. It worked like a charm. And if I had a nightmare with a ticket under my pillow, they would just exchange it with a new ticket because the old one was used up. And I just thought, isn't that brilliant? I just think that's such a lovely, sweet thing to do, the sweet dreams ticket. And it's actually come at a great time because my eldest has started talking about being scared and monsters and having, bad dreams. So I'm definitely going to be implementing that. I think it's such a sweet thing. So if you've got any other tips like that, email them me, thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. I know a lot of you obviously are in the newborn stage right now, but there are some of you that have with older children as well, or if you just want a bit of advice for when yours get bigger, I think it's really lovely to share things like that. So yeah, email me thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. Okay, on to the next emails. This one says, Dear Charlotte, firstly, a huge thank you for the podcast. I've listened to the whole back catalogue since my baby girl was born at the end of December. It's been like listening to a friend sharing their experiences. Your honest account of motherhood has really resonated with me. Thank you. I really love to hear that. Thank you for telling me that. Any tips on how to help a 13-week-old baby that's taken a severe dislike to the car seat? Baby currently screams when put in the car seat, and the corresponding journey. We've tried music, adult in the back, which is often not possible, adjusting straps, the angle, toys, sunshade. We live very rurally and it makes any trips incredibly stressful. It also makes me avoid going out in the car, meaning we miss out on groups and seeing others. This is detrimental to my well-being. She's not a great fan of the pram either, but quite likes an outward-facing sling. She definitely has a good dose of FOMO. I have been through this with the car seat. I had it with my older two. My 5 and 3-year-old, when they were babies, loved the car. It was like a surefire break for me. To the point where I would drive them round and then go through the drive-through, get a coffee and just chill for half an hour. I'd be nap trapped happily. However, my son, different kettle of fish. And it's funny because when you say this to people like, oh, the baby hates the car seat, they're like, no, it's fine. Let them, I'm sure they'll just cry for a minute, bring them over anyway. And you're like, no, you do not understand. The baby hates the car seat. And you want to say to people, you try driving with a screaming child that is basically choking on their saliva because they're that distressed, and then come back to me, because I would travel to my parents and my nans who live about half an hour from me. The first time or two, I took the baby with me, and it was like, whoa, this is distressing. Like, he's not meant to cry like that. And I just thought, oh, maybe he's having an off day. Or anyway, coming home one day, I was going onto the motorway, and he just started screaming to the point he was coughing and choking. And oh my God, I was petrified. I had my other two in the car as well. And shout out to smart motorways. If you know the M62, which goes across the country in the north, we are on it there in Manchester to Warrington, M62. There is no hard shoulder because it's a smart motorway, which is the most ridiculous thing when you need to pull over and you can't on a motorway. It's a whole new different topic of conversation, but smart motorways are the stupidest thing I have ever come across. This is just a slight sidetrack, but on these motorways, there are small little yellow bays where you can pull over if you obviously are in an emergency. Otherwise, you have to just simply put your hazards on and hope the cars behind you stop so that you can stop your car, get out and call for help. Now, right now, that is one of my worst nightmares, the thought of breaking down on the inverted commas smart motorway. What do you do when you have 3 children strapped in car seats in that situation? It just terrifies me. And these smart motorways have been proven to be disastrous, if you get what I mean. So yeah, driving on one of the motorways where you can't pull over, not that you would really pull over on a motorway because the baby was screaming, but if they started choking, you'd want to. Sorry, it just gets me so irate. The motorway situation. But basically, I know your pain. And I know that this is a very difficult situation to the point where I would stop going out as much as well. And that's not like me. I love going to baby groups. I love going to see friends and family. But looking back, I was quite grounded with my son, and I had to stay in more than I probably would have liked. And it's funny because my sister came once with me to go and see my nan. She was staying with me, my sister. And I said, you go in the back with the baby. That'll help marginally. And we'll go to my nan's. Anyway, he screamed the whole way. She was quite taken aback by it. She'd been, showing him toys and singing to him and doing everything you do with a baby. I was like, last resort, put the dancing fruit on. Come on, we'll get the dancing fruit on. And that even doesn't work. So she experienced it and was like, wow, this is next level. My one piece of advice, which may be inconvenient if you've invested in a certain car seat, is change the seat. That's what I did with my son. So from being like newborn to say 4 or 5 months, he was in the small newborn seat, the one that you carry out the hospital and it attaches to the pram and it goes into the car. That's what my elder two had. But he must have been uncomfortable in it. And we switched to the Joey 360, which my other two have had. And it's the one that you can spin around. It's like a big spaceship, basically. They're huge. And he's been a lot better in that. He still isn't a massive fan of the car. Getting him strapped in, he's like, oh no, like getting a bit upset. But now when the car moves, he's better than he was. And I try and time journeys for his naps anyway, because I know that if it's the morning, he'll fall asleep in the car and it'll be fine. But yeah, that is the one thing that worked for us, is changing the car seat. Other than that, we were just like you. We tried different toys. We tried a different mirror so that you can see me. Adult in the back, again, didn't really work. Didn't make much difference. So yeah, that is all I can really advise, is a different car seat, but I really feel your pain. It is a really hard one. And I didn't see it coming. Like I said, with my older two, they were really chill in the car. It was like a lovely journey. Some people go out in the car to settle their kids, don't they? So to have a baby that really doesn't like it is difficult. But the change of car seat did help 75%, I would say. So maybe that's something worth looking into. And thanks again for writing in. Next email says, Hi Charlotte, I'm writing this at 5:12 a.m. wide awake with a baby who thinks the day has officially begun because the sun is now streaming through the curtains. Now that mornings are getting lighter, sleep has completely gone out the window and I feel like I'm back in the newborn trenches again. I keep seeing people talk about blackout blinds, but I'm honestly a bit lost with it all. Do they actually make a big difference? Are we talking proper fitted ones or those temporary travel ones stuck to the window? At the moment, I've got curtains I thought were doing the job, but clearly not because the room is basically glowing at sunrise and my baby is like, great, let's start the day. I'm also wondering, is it worth trying to darken the room completely or will that just create a baby who can only sleep in darkness forever? Would love to hear what you did because I feel like I'm in a race against the sun every morning. Thank you, as always, for keeping me sane during these early starts. Love, a very tired, light sensitive mum. Hello, very tired, light sensitive mum. I've been there. We got a blackout blind recently, actually, for our girls. They share a room. And if you go back through my back catalogue, you'll hear me trying all different things to black these windows out. Because when it hits the end of March and the clocks change, they would always get up earlier. They would not resist bedtime. And last year, I tried tinfoil on the windows, which made the house look like a drug den. That didn't last very long. I tried putting like towels around the blind because even if you get a blackout blind, in inverted commas, there's still the strips of light around the edge. So it doesn't black the room out. So what we did was we recently got a blackout blind from a company called Block Blinds. I think it's called Blockout, BLOC out. And do you know what? It's very good. And this isn't an ad or sponsored or anything like that, but they're very good. So you basically measure your window and it has runners down the side of the blind and it's a no drill blind. It claims to be a no drill blind. I watched some girl on Instagram putting this blind up. She made it look so easy. So I was like, this was like one night after Jason had finished work about 6. I was like, oh, the clocks are changed at the weekend. Let's get that blind up because I kind of got it for this season because I know how early they awake otherwise. And he's like, oh, all right. I said, I saw this girl do it on Instagram. It looked so easy. Like, you wouldn't even believe. Let's just do it now. Anyway, there was some serious editing to her reel because it wasn't that easy. And I'd measured it slightly wrong as well. Oh, my Lord. And I don't know how I'd manage that because you have to measure down. Oh gosh. That doesn't sound good. I've got both monitors here. I've got the baby's monitor and the girl's monitor. So that's what that was. I think we're all good. We're all good. Yeah, we'll carry on. And yeah, so you have to measure down 3 times across the window and across 3 times to make sure it's really accurate. And it was out by like 3 mil. But anyway, Jason managed to hammer it in and it's all good. It is a 2-man job fitting it. But if you want total blackout in your baby's room, I would recommend it. I think it was about £180. So it's not like a cheap run-of-the-mill blind. It is a bit more expensive, but it does cover the entire window. So you don't have to stuff blankets around. You don't have to get one of them temporary blinds that don't really work. And it makes the room much darker. So my girls are 5 and 3, so they're not obviously newborns now. My battle with them is more so, but it's light, why are we going to bed? You know, you remember doing that as a kid yourself, I'm sure, when you're like, yeah, but everyone else is playing outside, it's light. You know, today putting them down, I could hear the little boys next door playing out in the garden and they're probably thinking, why are you taking me up now? But what I do is I pull their blind down and I pull our bedroom blind down on that floor. So it kind of blacks that floor out. And then I shut the bathroom door. So it's kind of, the top floor is all dim. So it makes it feel like it's bedtime and we have a few stories and we get all sleepy. And that really helps with older kids with that whole summertime. It's like, I don't want to go to sleep, Belle. The morning, I would say they're still waking at about 6:30, 7. So it is keeping them in line with their sleep. The baby, however, is in a different room without one of those blinds. It's so far, oh my God, I'm going to jinx it. I always jinx it when I talk about sleep being good. So far, he doesn't wake up at 5 yet. And I don't want that. He's usually wakes at 7, which is wonderful. I can take 7. 7 is great. So I don't want to say you definitely need a blackout blind. If you did want to invest in one, I would definitely recommend the blockout. But like you say, you don't want to train your baby to only be able to sleep in blackout. So it's a tricky one. I would say I've always tried to dim the baby's rooms, at least, putting a few towels over the blinds to make sure they're extra dark. I've obviously invested in this blind and it has been a good investment, to be fair. It has blacked the room out. So yeah, it's a really tricky one. And I think it's something that a lot of people have battles with, is when the clocks change, the mornings are lighter, the evenings are lighter. It seems to have an impact on sleep. I think the year I first started recording this podcast, which was 2024, I remember in the first few episodes talking about how my girls were rising at 5 now because the clocks have changed. And that's when they were a lot younger. So it is very common. And I think it could just be a couple of weeks why things readjust. If anyone else has got any tips on this, please share them and let us know what's worked for you, what's not worked for you. Email me thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. But I hope that helps. That's kind of my recommendation. That's the blind we went for. And that has helped so far. But I hope for your sake that baby starts sleeping until 7 again, because we just need that extra time of a morning, don't we, to come around. Next tonight is what's trending. If you live in the UK, I'm pretty sure you'll have seen the news story about Jessie Nelson. Jessie Nelson was part of Little Mix and she had twins last year. And her twins were really sadly diagnosed with a condition called spinal muscular atrophy, SMA. And it's a rare genetic disorder that affects muscle strength and movement in babies and children. Now, the reason she has been campaigning so much around this genetic disorder is because if her twins had have been screened in the heel prick test for SMA, it would have given them a quicker diagnosis and access to treatment. And early detection of this is absolutely crucial because treatments are significantly more effective when they're started before the symptoms appear. So it's been really hard for her because she's obviously not had that as part of her screening and then been told months down the line, if it was part of the screening, would have been able to do more. And it seems really tough what she's been through and what she's going through. And how her twins are, they potentially may never walk. It's really, really sad. But her campaigning for this has brought to light how important this initial screening is. And I think it was today or this week, the Health Secretary has now announced that checks will be rolled out as part of in-screening evaluations from this October rather than in 2027. So it's really good news that this clearly very important screening test is added to those initial heel prick tests. I just think that's a really, it's come from a really difficult time for her and her babies. But what she's been through has helped implement real change for newborns moving forward. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that because if you've been following her story, you may not know that that's happened in the last couple of days. And I just think that's a really important thing she's done there from something, so difficult for her to go through. Next tonight is my self-care tip. I think I've talked about this recently, but it is to have an analog day. And an analog day is where you basically live like you're in the 90s and you don't pick up your bloody phone. I'm always talking about this, aren't I? I think I'm going to be an anti-social media campaigner at one point. But today I left my phone in the kitchen, and when the baby had his nap, the girls had a bit of TV time, and I read The Housemaid. And I've just really enjoyed it. My head feels clearer. I feel calmer. I feel happier. And I know I always talk about this, but it's worth it, especially when the kids are off school in the holidays, for you to be more present. And I just think it really, really helps having your phone at an arm's length, not just picking it up incessantly, not just scrolling because you can, instead picking up a book. And I've really enjoyed reading this book today. It's The Housemaid, because there's a film out that I quite want to watch of the book. So I thought I'll read the book. And yeah, I've been enjoying it. So I hope you can too. Thanks for listening tonight, as always. Keep your emails coming in, thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. I've been loving having conversations back and forth with you. I really love chatting to you all. I always reply to everybody that writes in. So keep your emails coming. Even if you just want to say hi, you don't have to ask a question. I'm always happy to chat. And I wish you all a restful, peaceful night ahead. Good night.